Hi there, folks, and welcome back to Ukes with Alex, the ukulele channel where we talk about ukulele, the ukulele culture from the perspective of us Europeans, and try and have some fun, try not to take ourselves too seriously, and generally try not to be too miserable along the way. Speaking of miserable, one of my favourite miserable people is my guest today. It's Barry Maz from Ukulele. How you doing, Baz?
I'm all right. Good to catch up with you again, Alex.
Yeah, I didn't mean to lead in quite so negatively. You really are one of my favourite people who speaks openly on YouTube. You're my favourite ukulele reviewer, and
thank you.
Yeah, and I don't mean any disrespect to my other friends that are ukulele reviewers, but you've been at it for quite a long time now.
It's about 10, maybe a little bit more years since I did the first review.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I suppose I do kind of caught that miserable, grumpy old fart thing going on. But it's all good. Yeah, well, it comes with the sort of tell it like it is, doesn't it? I mean, I'm not I'm not here to sort of shill for the brands and just sort of say everything's wonderful and happy clappy. It's just me. I'm not really miserable. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not really.
Nah, you're not miserable, really. You're not miserable. It's like me. I think you have a natural expression that if you're not talking, it's somewhere in the middle. It's hard to read. So you're like me. In a thumbnail, you come across like you're not happy with a product, and then you gush with praise about it.
Yeah, I had a comment the other day from somebody saying that they could actually go through some of my review videos without the sound on and know whether it was a good uke or not.
Nice.
Just by the look on my face.
Well, that's a time saver, I suppose.
I might do silent reviews from here on in.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think most people who click on this video will know who you are, but just for those that haven't twigged from our opening gambit, who are you, Barry Maz?
Yeah, well, apart from the guy who probably spends far too much time in ukulele groups on social media making a nuisance of himself, I write a website called Gotaukulele that's been around for about 10 years, and that's me. It's a uke blog, if you like. Well, it started as a blog, but I suppose it's just a website now. It's about the ukulele, and that's me.
And I suppose 10 years ago, we're talking in 2010, the ukulele was just on the rise at the time. And what got you into the kind of review? Did you start off as a review site, or were you doing general ukulele?
No. I didn't really know what I was starting with. I started out originally with music through playing guitars, which I still do. And I picked up a ukulele probably longer than 10 years ago when I think about it. The website actually started as a bit of a daft bet between a friend of mine and I, who said that you'd never be able to get anybody to read anything about those bloody ukuleles. So I set up this web page, it was at the time when blogging was really kind of the thing, and people were setting up what blogs were, which are online diaries.
Yeah.
So it was basically me saying, "Hello world, I bought a ukulele today. Here's my ukulele." And the next day it would be, "Hello, I bought another ukulele. Here it is."
Right.
And then I noticed that people started actually reading it. And you think, okay, maybe this guy was wrong, and maybe people do. And that developed into a website that, because I had a bit of a backstory of sort of working with friends in guitar shops, so I knew a bit about setting up instruments, guitars.
I wonder that. That's good. That's good to know. I'd always wondered that.
Yeah, so I'd always known my way around stringed instruments to a degree. So I started writing these posts on the website about, which I call the beginner's guides. They're still there. And I made this conscious effort to not set up a website that aimed to be a teacher, because I'm not a teacher. I am not a teacher. I'm not even a very good player, but I do know my way around an instrument. And so it was about, well, what are the questions that people ask when they first get a ukulele? What are the first problems that they encounter? You know, how do I change strings? Why aren't my tuners working? Is this setup right?
Yeah.
What is setup? So I started putting those into articles, and they took off really well. And then the reviews kind of came from that, but they were really nothing more than me just writing about instruments that I'd bought because I was pleased with them. I bought I think my first serious uke was that one, a Flea,
cool,
which I've had for a long time, battered. You know, when that arrives and you're really pleased with it, I wrote about it. And that kind of became a review. I look back at them now and they're not reviews. It's just a stream of consciousness of some guy going, hey, look, I bought this ukulele. It's really nice. And that kind of just developed from there.
Those years of experience, though, of writing that stream of consciousness, that's where that it's a kind of subliminal checklist comes in. And then before you know it, you've got a format. And before you know it, yeah, I've been in that position myself. I get it.
I always wanted, I mean, who started? Probably goes back to a guy that you probably remember. One of the nicest people I've ever met in the ukulele world, a guy called Alan Townsend at Sutherland.
Yeah.
He was the first guy who actually sent me stuff as a brand and said, could you review this? And then it just sort of snowballed from there.
Right.
But I always sort of wanted them to be just a guy. I didn't want them to be too polished. I didn't want it to be, you know, like the sort of American snazzy, you know, whizzy graphics, and this is our review and this is for you today. I wanted it to be a guy sat in his bedroom saying, well, I've got this ukulele, I'll tell you about it. And that's what I've always tried to keep them as, and don't intend to change. But yeah, stream of consciousness is a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, the videos, I guess they came after the tutorials, like when someone asks you about the tuners and stuff, because it's easier to explain that visually than it is in a blog. Yeah. Well,
the first reviews didn't have videos at all, and I was reluctant to even go into doing videos because personally, I prefer. I'm a old school guy who used to buy Guitarist magazine and used to read the reviews in that before there was any such thing as YouTube. I like reading and I like writing. So the videos came about because readers were saying you really should put some videos with it. So I did it, and they took off too. So you know they're here to stay as well. But for me, the written review is what I'm keenest on, really.
Okay. Well, sticking on the reviews, over the years, I mean, I'm guessing the way you do it's had to change, because certainly from our perspective, being at the Southern Ukulele Store, we found that the quality control has improved over the last 5 years through constant user criticism. So the market changed and people became more vocal with their displeasure. And, you know, shops like us and some great shops around the world like Uke Republic, MIM, Ukulele Site, there's so many that aren't afraid to be honest with their customers, because you need to be good at this kind of retail. Yeah, I think the quality of the product you're receiving has improved, certainly at the lower end, cheaper ukes.
Right across the range, Alex. I think now, I don't think there's been a better time to be a buyer.
Yeah.
It's getting harder. I made this comment to someone today that it's getting harder for me to put bad scores to things. Occasionally they happen. And of course, there is still a lot of trash out there if you really go looking for it. But I don't try to go looking for the bad stuff. I try to go looking for the stuff that people are actually buying, because that's the point of doing reviews. But with those, I mean, it's been a long time that I've had something that's been a real howler. I think it's a great time to be buying. I think the quality right across the range has gone up significantly. Yeah,
from 50. I mean, even under £50. I mean, but £50 and up. I mean, you could go cheaper. I mean, you talk about the modern player that picks up an octopus. I don't know if you remember how bad octopus ukuleles were 8 years ago. But I remember spending 3 or 4 days checking off incoming deliveries, and they would need fret leveling, they would need nut work. Sometimes machine heads wouldn't work, and there was a general feeling of they've just threw these in the box and thought, well, that's not our problem anymore. And now people are just not accepting crap. So I mean, even I even feel good for the kids at schools now, because you know we don't really do the kind of educational orders, but the people selling en masse, I feel like they're at least getting something that's playable, and they're more likely to continue with the ukulele than if you give them something that really is good for the bin or the wall of a restaurant. Do you know what I mean? Like, to be seen and not played and heard.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's my email inbox has changed dramatically over the years, because I always get a lot of emails saying, can you recommend me? and they're really difficult to answer because it's such a subjective thing. You know, what size do you want? How much have you got to spend? What do you like the look of? And it gets too complicated. But I always try to steer people into, well, have a look at this brand, have a look at this brand. And it always used to be that the response was always a simple one-liner. Where if they said, well, I've only got 40 quid to spend, I'd say, well, I'm looking at a Macala Dolphin. And that was it, really. I mean, that was it. Because everything else was sort of not necessarily bad, but certainly came with the risk of it was a Russian roulette job. It was, you didn't know what you were going to get. And I'm not saying all Macala Dolphins were perfect, but generally.
It was a safer bet. Yeah, 7 out of 10 would be fine. Yeah.
But now, yes, certainly the quality control, you still get them. I still get, certainly a lot of the Amazon instruments that I look at still come, the ones that come direct from factories and haven't gone through specialist shops like yours and others, where they haven't been taken out of the box before they've been sold. And it's usually sharp frets and it's usually high actions and things like that. They can be adjusted, they can be weeded out, they can be dealt with. But if you're a beginner and you've bought a present for a child and you spent 40 quid and they're opening it on their birthday, the last thing you want is for them to open an instrument that hurts their hand to play or can't be tuned properly.
Yeah, and then you try and tune it up and you go, oh, well, look, I'll teach you a C chord. And then you play the C chord and it's out of tune. And you go, well, put it away. Probably on the scrap heap.
Yeah. It definitely improved though. The quality control across the board is far better than I can ever remember. I mean, if I go back to 12 years, blimey, my first ukulele. I'm not going to mention the name. Enough people can do some research to know what that was, but it was a name that a lot of people will know. But it had frets set on an angle halfway down.
Oh, it was a fan fret ukulele before that was cool.
Yeah, before it was cool. It was appalling. And I hated myself for it because here's a guy who'd worked in guitar shops and done setups and knew what it was like to, buy cheap, buy twice.
Yeah.
And what did I do? I bought cheap and it went in the bin. And the next clearly was
where it led you. You ended up writing a blog that stopped how many thousands of people from making the same mistake.
Well, do you know what? That is exactly why those beginners tips came about, because I probably did have this sort of nagging down of, why did you do that?
Yeah.
You should know better.
We've just talked about like the entry level thing, but just moving on now away from the reviews. And although it's easy for people to look up what you've reviewed and given a high score to, I mean, personally, do you find that you gravitate to a mixture of different sizes of uke, or is there a particular uke over the years that you've played and you've really felt like that was as good as it gets?
Well, good as it gets is a personal thing, of course. So,
yeah, I'm talking personal, right? I mean, everybody's different, and if people want to go on your recommendation, then that's fine, but everyone is different.
Yeah, let's look at the scales. Scales, first of all, and I don't want to alienate anybody here when I say this. I don't really play a lot of concerts, although I'm going to contradict myself in my next sentence. Okay. I don't really play a lot of concerts. Most of the ukuleles, I don't actually own a lot of ukuleles, which is another thing people get surprised about. I don't have a huge collection. I like what I like, and I've got about a dozen, if tops, if that.
Why would you need more?
Well,
you've got a constant stream coming in and out.
Well, yes, I suppose there's that. Although I don't think you'd be too impressed if I took that kanile'a you lent to me on a camping trip. So,
well, I'd rather you didn't, but if that's what you need to do to process your review, then I guess we'll make it work.
Hey, Alex, maybe I did. You'll never know.
I'll never know, and that's fine. Ignorance is bliss.
Anyway, I mainly play sopranos and tenors because I really like the traditional side of the soprano, and that's my first love. And the tenor I find to be distinctly different to the soprano to exist as two different instruments. The concert for me, which I do like, and I do own one, and this is where, as I say, I'm going to contradict myself, is kind of an either or for me, and it's neither one thing nor the other. And because I've got sopranos and tenors, I'll have one concert. As for ukuleles that have stood out to me, the first one, the obvious one that springs to mind is the Ken Timms soprano. That completely knocked me sideways. This is a guy who calls himself a hobby builder. Builds up in, where is he? North Shields in the northeast, builds in his garage. builds to exact Martin replica standards. He makes no bones about the fact he's making Martin replicas. He's copying them, but he's copying them so exactly, even to the point that he's got the same double radius on the back, the two radius measurements on the back that he's replicated.
Wow.
That instrument completely knocked me sideways. It's not the best finished. It's covered in a shellac done by his wife, but the sound of it and the way it plays and how light it was, it just absolutely knocked me sideways. So that's probably the one that really still blows me away the most. And it's really simple looking. The reason I was making that comment about concerts, though, is because there's only one instrument I've ever had loaned to me where I've got in touch with the person who sent it to me and said, can I buy it? And it's a concert by Kevin Mulcock in South Wales.
Oh, really?
Luthier trained by Pete Howlett.
Yeah.
He's not been building all that long, and he sent me a dreadnought-shaped concert with this maple neck. Very simple-looking instrument, not a lot of decoration on it, very much a local luthier build. And I played it, and it absolutely knocked me bandy, and I immediately got in touch with him after the review and said, can I buy it? And he let me buy it. So that's the only one. So that has to have a mention.
I just before you move on to tenors, that Dreadnought Ditson style concert, that's always something that drags me in as well. I don't find myself getting that excited about concert ukuleles, but for similar reasons to you. I've gone through a phase of playing them, and I do tend to move towards tenors, and the concerts I like sound like tenors. But there's something about the Dreadnought shape that takes some of those kind of nasally frequencies out of a concert. Yeah. So it's interesting that you've had that too. I've not played any of Kevin's ukuleles, but Pete Howlett has for a long time spoken really highly of him to me. So I'm glad that it's there's two UK builders then that have really excited you.
It is two UK. I mean, the Ken Sims I bought for myself personally. So that wasn't, he didn't loan that. He didn't get in touch with me. Kevin did get in touch with me with that concert, but he had no idea I was going to buy it. And as I say, the only one I've ever bought that's come on the back of a review. So I can't really give it has to have a recommendation for that reason, because I put my money on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, and we've talked some really positive things now about independent builders. As far as factory instruments go, is there any? Do you have a brand or a build that kind of you get on with really well? Like I've always liked the kind of shape of the kanile'a neck, that kind of thing. Is there something that you just always found fits your hands nicely?
You've just mentioned them. It's the first high-end instrument I ever bought. I bought it from your shop.
Oh, and that was about 9 years ago. So I suppose you've really got used to that.
That instrument, yeah, I played one before, and I just, I've owned kamakas, I've owned ko'oloas, and they're wonderful instruments. And do you know what? Up at that top tier, it's all much of a muchness, isn't it, Alex? I mean,
I think so. Yeah, it's people get upset with me because I'm so positive in the shop videos, and they think that it's all about sales. And I have to explain. I was like, no. When you're choosing ukuleles to sell, you don't buy crap. Like you choose things that you want to sell. So I mean, I get everyone who buys a kamaka that wants a traditional instrument with that history. I get why you would pay a premium for that legacy. I get why people like the ko'oloa, brittle, slightly brighter sound. And I get why people love the kind of almost like a Taylor kind of ukulele vibe of kanile'a. I get it. And I'm never disappointed somebody doesn't think the same as I do. I love that people have different opinions and taste.
Yeah. And I get a lot, I get emails saying, well, what's the best if you were buying yourself? Kanile'a, ko'oloa, kamaka, and also adding in now things like nui, moonbirds, things like that. And my response is always the same, that they're all good. They're all good. You're not going to be disappointed, but I can't make that decision for you. As for what really works it for me, it is kanile'a. I don't know what it is. I love the feel of a kanile'a neck. I love that woody sound that K1's got that I still own and still play. And there's something I really quite like about the story and the family and the Sousa family and the kids coming through. It's just everything sort of fits together for me. But that's not in any way to discredit any other of the Hawaiian brands. I mean, you're not going to go wrong with any of them, are you? Really?
No. I mean, we don't even have, not even Hawaii, like you said, a Nui Nui. There's not really a personal story of a Nui Nui. I mean, Johnson's, I think he's a Chinese American, or he's a hybrid gentleman of two completely different nations and upbringings. And a Nui Nui ukuleles are fantastic, and I think
and the Millers and the Rebels and
the Rebels,
absolutely. Great time, as we said, great time to be buying.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a ukulele collection, you can have several different price points, sizes, styles, and shapes, and you can be really satisfied with everything. And 10 years ago, I think it would have been really hard just to have two good quality instruments. I don't want to kind of get into a slagging match with brands and stuff, but from my own perspective, I find that making the videos for YouTube has caused me to have some really strange encounters and run-ins with brands. Without naming any names, if you don't want to, have you had any kind of strange, almost where people have bribed you to give something a good review? Have you had some really strange encounters that might have made you just... I know sometimes you go, do you know what? F this, I'm not going to do it anymore. But is there a brand that have really
I just say I'm not lawyered up, so not mentioning any names. Surprisingly, Alex, not with any of the big names and not with any of the big stores. And I think that's because I made it quite clear when I first started doing reviews more regularly. I was really banging this drum that this is independent. I'm not paid to do this. These are loaned to me. You'll vouch for the fact that the stuff you've sent me on loan comes back to you. Or goes
This is our first conversation.
It is indeed.
We've spoken many times on Messenger about instruments and information, but you remain impartial. I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, they go back. I think because I've always been banging that drum, like the guys at Sutherland who were looking after Carla and people like that, and the Ohana team who've sent me stuff over, they know that they expect that the instrument's going to go back to them, or it's going to get shipped onto you or to World of Ukes or another dealer. And I'm not in it for the money or for the free instruments, because I haven't got the bloody space for the free instruments. If I could turn this camera around and show this off, if you'd understand that.
I must just interrupt you. If anyone's watching this from a big brand, I am actually in it for free instruments. So if you want to send me free instruments, ignore Maz. You can send me anything you want.
Well, send them to me first. I'll review them and then I'll send them to him.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Saying that, I think a lot of people, and I don't think it's just reviewers, to be honest. I think they've been targeting everyone and every man and his dog on Facebook. Is the Amazon brands who I get emails weekly, maybe more than weekly now, saying we have free instruments for you if you leave us a 5-star review. They're 10 a penny. I can deal with those. There has been one brand that, as I say, will remain nameless, who did get in touch with me and sounded a little. It all sounded a little bit weird, and I actually had the review written and ready to go. And then I had some people email me hearing some stories about some tactics, basically trying to persuade people to leave 5-star reviews. And I got back in touch with them and said, is this true? And I had evidence on my computer. And they came back and said, no, categorically not true. And I sent them the evidence back and I pulled the review down. And that's the only time that's ever happened. Right. So I'm really cautious about who I deal with now, and I've got a set of terms and conditions that get sent out to new brands to saying this is the way it is. I don't want free instruments. I don't want my purchase on Amazon refunded. I think it's really strange that, I don't think Amazon 5-star reviews are anything to go by now, but unfortunately it does work. It gets you up the listings on the search results, and they know that. And I think it's really sad that people are taking the shilling to write the 5-star review, not me.
I'm glad that I didn't really think for one second that bigger, more reputable brands would feel the need to do that, because my experience with them is that they're confident in their product because they're well researched and they're working hard, and they actually just like the distribution of You know,
Yeah.
it's all about content nowadays for these companies.
It is. I suppose there's one exception to that, and I understand why they do it, and that's the I don't know what you call it. It's the influence thing. It's the paid for personality, and I don't want to be a personality. I don't want to be the YouTube guy going off. I did get an invite once from a brand that will remain nameless to go to NAMM show, but it was on the basis that I had to buy my own ticket. And I've got a family here, and there's no way I'm going to California and leaving the family here and enjoying myself in the sunshine. That's just not going to happen.
If it makes you feel any better, I've done it 4 times, and it's totally worth leaving your family and having some fun.
It was tempting.
Yeah.
It was tempting. But you know what I mean? I understand there are brands that have their influencers that do that, and I know I've griped about it online. And so, where I find it a bit of an issue is where those influencers who maybe they've got sort of a teaching channel, a very successful teaching channel, maybe they're really good teachers, and they start doing reviews of instruments that they are paid for.
Yeah.
And YouTube's still not particularly good at ensuring that is weeded out as a paid promotion. And no, I don't do those. And
they upset me as well. Yeah. We won't name any names, but I mean, I've seen 2 examples as well where they've set up their own online stores.
Yeah.
So they've set up as an online retailer.
Yeah.
And then the manufacturer is drop shipping the product straight from either a US warehouse or a Chinese factory. And I've seen that happen more. And I've seen one brand that are on the rise that started doing that and then quickly realized that it was doing more to harm their reputation than help it.
I suppose for me, this is another thing a lot of people don't understand is this is just a part-time thing I do at weekends, just because I'm a boring fart. I don't know, because I like the ukulele.
It's a cool hobby.
It's a hobby. I don't do it. I've got a job. This isn't a living. The website does have some advertising on it. Why wouldn't you? And that advertising gets plowed back into buying instruments for review, because what I try to do is not only deal with the likes of you guys and deal with stuff that's loaned to me, because it's obviously if I'm taking sort of 10 instruments from Carla are going to make sure they send me good examples.
Yeah.
So occasionally I'll buy one out of the blue from a random shop. I've got one coming from Carla in a couple of weeks. They don't know that yet.
Is it you bought it from Carla USA, have you?
No, I bought it from I just go randomly on Google and use some of the blog funds and just click and buy without even thinking about who the store is and see what happens.
I have actually seen you do that. You've just reviewed, as we film this, you've just reviewed a kanile'a for us. And I think you had the kanile'a with you for about a month. And while we were waiting for that review to come up, I think you purchased an instrument from us.
I did, yeah. The Carla bamboo.
That was it, yeah.
So I didn't ask you to loan me that. I bought it.
Yeah, you were the first person to buy one, and we sold about 8 or 9 the same day. So you're lucky you got one when you did.
That one worked out okay. And then what happens once they've been reviewed is that they then get sold on, so people get a bargain, and that money either goes back into reviews. They all go back into reviews. Eventually, you get down to, you've got sort of, I haven't got examples here because I've got to tidy up. You end up with sort of 30 quid brightly painted stuff. That it's not worth me putting on eBay to sell. They get given to local school and charity. So it all goes out the house eventually, because I don't, as I say, I own the instruments I want. I'm not in this to build a ukulele collection.
That's cool. I think we'll probably wrap it up fairly soon if you don't mind, but I do have 2 questions for you. I just wanted to ask, first of all, where do you see the ukulele going over the next 10 years?
I've got to be careful with this, because I've been asked this question before a few years back and I got it badly wrong. I said it was going off the boil, and guess what happened? It just shot through the sky, didn't it? I don't know. Do you know what I'd like to see happen? Is how I'll answer that. I'd like to see it become less of that niche instrument and be just another part of the band, So you get a band, there's a keyboard player, there's a bass player, there's a guitar player, lead, rhythm. Oh, and there's a ukulele on some songs too. That would be really nice for me, because I think it works with music in the right setting. Yeah. And I think that may start to see the end of this. And I think I have to be careful what I say here, because I think I am seeing the end of this. But you know that whole sort of 4 strings good, 6 strings bad brigade, and it works both ways. The guitar world can be sniffy about ukes, but equally I've seen plenty of uke players be sniffy about guitars, and it's just like they're musical instruments, you know. Like it's like being sniffy about a cello.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, very strange. So I'd like to hope that going forward, and I think it will, because I think this is a bigger boom than I think the ukulele's ever seen in history, and there's been lots of waves.
Yeah.
This is a big one.
It's the longest sustained one, for sure.
Yeah. I'd just like to see it just become, you know, people, oh, what do you play? Oh, I play ukulele. Oh, really? I play guitar. And that just be great. We both play instruments, you know?
Yeah. Rob and I felt the same as you, though, 5 years ago. We both felt, I remember it's just after, I mean, I've been married 6 years, so it's just after I got married, we both felt like the market had matured, and it's still a mature market now. And it was like, where can it go from here? Because, you know, the people that started 5 years ago, they're buying high-end instruments, and that's great, but no one's coming in and buying new ones. And then I definitely saw a second wave around 2017, which was just young people and older people, and very few people in my age group and your age group. I was noticing kind of retirees and people still in education, whether it was college or primary school, you know. And and then just a big gap in the middle where it was a lot quieter, but the people that did play were not fanatical, but like they were lifers, you know. They're people who they're always going to play ukulele. So yeah, give it another 5 years, and I think there'll be quite a few more lifers out there that normalize the instrument in our environment. In Hawaii, it's a much more normal thing. In Japan, it's a much more normal thing. Maybe we're just slow to follow suit.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that. And I think you've always got that whole, and this isn't unique to ukuleles, that ukulele acquisition syndrome. It's the guitar acquisition syndrome before that. You know, I suppose guitar brands always thought, well, is the bottom going to fall out of that market? And you put out a new guitar, people will buy it.
Yeah.
People like buying instruments. They're nice things. Hey, they're nice things to look at.
Yeah, the dopamine hit of a new instrument it's as good as anything else, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Should we play a short game of word association?
Oh, right. Okay.
Just a short one. Just to close out this podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazon.
Don't go there.
I'm going to have to cut that, I think. eBay.
Don't go there.
Okay. Reverb.
Reverb. Oh, the shop?
Yeah.
Is that the place that sells old junk?
No, that's eBay.
Oh, yeah.
Reverb's the one that sells old junk at a premium.
Oh, yeah. Expensive old junk. Yeah.
Expensive old junk. Okay. Carla.
Yeah, decent.
Okay. Kamaka.
History.
Good. Martin.
Yeah, I could say history.
But you want to say...
I want to say faded dreams.
There are exceptions, but yeah, I'd definitely be on the negative side of things too. Okay. Japan.
Precision.
Yeah, very good. Very good. China.
Surprising.
Yeah. I like that. I'm going to steal that. I like that one a lot. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. You were the guest everyone wanted. I really mean that.
What?
You were the person that everyone wanted to see me have a conversation with. I'm talking hundreds of people in a short period of time. So all of my Patreons, the YouTube comments on my other podcasts, in the shop, and in comment sections of our sus YouTube videos. People really wanted me to have a conversation with you.
That's freaky, man.
I know. And I think it went quite well.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. That's the first one of these I've done.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I assumed you get invited on quite a few. There aren't that many ukulele podcasts.
No, I've done written interviews with the Ukulele magazine in US and with Matt's Uke Mag, but nothing on video. You are leading the technological revolution.
I do my bit. I do my bit for the ukulele. Oh, do you ever get told off by Americans for calling it the ukulele?
All the time, because my website is called Gotaukulele, and that doesn't scan in Hawaiian. What they don't realize is it's called Gotaukulele because it's taken from a line in a song by a songwriter called Loudon Wainwright III,
Okay.
Rufus Wainwright and Martha Wainwright's father, who wrote a song called the Ukulele Song, and that's the opening line of the song. Gotaukulele.
Got a ukulele, right? There you go. That's a pretty cool fact. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. But no, ukulele. I also don't say Paris when I go to Paris.
Yeah, you got a very quick, prepared reply for that. That's good.
Yeah. I've been asked so many times.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the Hawaiian language. Of course, it's a revered word for them. It's a revered instrument, but I'm not Hawaiian. It's about vernacular. It's words change over language and geography, and that's all good too. Language changing is a nice thing, I think.
I think so too. The Hawaiians are the people that care the least about whether we call it ukulele. I found it's generally Europeans, English, mainland US, and it's the same with Aquila and Aquila. What do you say?
I used to say Aquila. No, I used to say Aquila. And now I found myself saying Aquila, and I don't know why I've done that. Maybe it's because I went on a holiday to Italy. I don't know. Honestly, I genuinely don't know. But it is Aquila, isn't it? It means eagle.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was told two different things on the same day once by two different Italian people. So I just gave up and carried on as I was. Whereas with the ukulele, I find myself now almost afraid to say ukulele. Sometimes I consciously mix it up when I do interviews like this, just to really keep people on their toes.
I might start doing that.
Cool. Well, look, we've babbled on enough, but I've really enjoyed this chat. It's really nice to actually speak to you face to face. And thanks for coming on.
No worries at all, Alex.
Take care, mate.